Welcome to Beyond the Lab, a series by the Office of Career Development within the Biomedical Research, Education, and Training Department of the Vanderbilt University School of Medicine. I'm Kate Stewart, and I'm here today with Nicole Garbarini. She graduated in 2008, right, in neuroscience. So we're so glad to have her back, and so welcome back. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So tell me what you did here at Vanderbilt.
I was a PhD student here in the neuroscience program, like you said, and I worked in the laboratory of Eric Delpierre, and I studied cation chloride cotransporters and protein interactions that regulate those transporters, which are expressed in neurons and very important to regulating neuronal excitability.
Okay, so tell me about after your Vanderbilt, what your path was to your current role.
Okay, so I was doing a short-term editorial position as an associate reviews editor for a research journal that was being launched here out of Vanderbilt with the company of biologists in the UK. And while I was doing that short-term job position, I had a friend who was in the AAAS Policy Fellowship, and he said, you know, with your writing background and your writing skills, this might be a great opportunity for you to try. So I looked at the program, it looked like a great experience, and I went ahead and applied and found a great office to place in.
Okay, so tell us about your AAAS Fellowship. How, what was that experience like, and how was that formative for the rest of your career path?
Well, it's funny because when people to ask about science policy. Well, what is science policy? Yeah. People who enter that science policy fellowship, they do a lot of different things. They sometimes focus more on communication. Sometimes they focus on program management, policy development. For me, my first year was at NIH NHLBI, which is the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, and I was working on their small business research portfolio and learning about how they fund extramural research and analysis of their programs. And then my second year of the fellowship, I was at National Science Foundation, and I was in the Office of Legislative and Public Affairs. Okay. And I worked a little bit with the Legislative Affairs group, for instance, as editor of a newsletter that was targeted to Congress, the Hill, reporting on NSF-funded science. And I also worked with their press officers in communicating NSF-funded research to the larger audiences than the general public.
Okay, so tell me about your current role. Like, what do you do now?
I work in the NIH Office of Extramural Research, and that's in the Office of the Director. And so NIH is organized into 27 institutes, and our office sets policy for extramural research overall throughout all of the NIH.
Okay, so what does a typical day look like? Like, what are some of the activities that you handle throughout your day?
Well, one aspect of my job is working with the press. A lot of people are interested in NIH-funded research, whether they're a local newspaper reporter who heard this university near me has a grant. What does that mean? How did they get it? Why did you give it to them? And so I will explain how the grants process works and how NIH supports research. I also work with reporters who focus on reporting on biomedical research, for instance, for major journals that might have a news component to them as well. And I work closely with them and the subject matter experts in my office to help basically translate policy information or program information and help answer questions from the press. Okay. So that's a large part of my job.
Okay. Why is that a good fit for you personally? What is that? How does that appeal to you?
Well, I think working in communications is really important to me because I've always liked writing. I like working with people and talking to people, and I like taking things that are complex, like scientific information or science policy information, and translating it to the general public and helping them understand how it affects them and how it's important to their lives.
Okay. So what are some of the skills that you gained from your PhD training that best equipped you for this current role?
I think there are really a lot of aspects of PhD training that can benefit you as you seek other careers that are maybe beyond the bench. So for instance, people don't realize when you're working on your PhD that you're running multiple projects at the same time. You're essentially managing a program in a way. You're also doing literature review and problem solving. You're finding answers to questions that don't have answers. And so it really takes a lot of critical thinking and problem solving skills to do that kind of work.
Okay, so in your current role, what were some of the skills that you needed to gain that you might not have received when you were doing your PhD training?
I think there's a lot of aspects about working in an office environment that I was not familiar with when I started working at NIH. And I've been learning a lot how to work with groups for instance, across the NIH, across all of the different institutes, working with people who are working in a focused area and helping them translate their message and communicate their message to someone who might not be familiar with what they do at all.
Okay.
So I feel like those are probably some of the biggest learning curves, and I'm still gaining experience in that.
Okay. So I'm sure networking has been a big component of your career life. What does that look like to you, and what are some of your strategies that you use?
Well, I think I like to talk to people. And so I think being open to talk to people and ask them questions about their job, what they do, how they got there, just like we're doing here, I think that's a really important attitude to bring to networking. I also, when I meet with people, I sometimes know of friends or other colleagues I've met who might make a good connection. And I'm never shy to introduce people if I think that they might benefit from knowing one another. So I think networking is not just trying to advertise like I'm looking for a job or what can you offer me, but it's really just about building a community of people and that you can exchange job ideas with, or to help friends or colleagues find a good fit for themselves as well.
Okay. So what are some things that you wish you knew as a PhD student that you know now?
What are some things as a PhD? I think the most important thing is that your path to a career is never going to be linear. It's always going to have a few twists and turns. And the most important thing is, are you in a position where you feel like you're gaining skills, gaining knowledge, working towards a goal or something that you want to develop that will help you in seeking, advancing your career and seeking other positions as well. And so I think being open to new opportunities and appreciating the fact that things might not seem like a straightforward path, but that's just normal. And that happened, yeah.
Good. So tell me about your work-life balance in this role. What are some things that that help you juggle those two?
I think learning time management is especially important. I think it's something I still struggle with, but I'm definitely getting better at learning how to prioritize tasks. I think that work-life balance, is a very office-centric thing sometimes. You really have to have colleagues that are supportive and understanding if you have family needs, for instance, that you need to attend to. And so it's about creating space and for you to sort of disengage if you need to at the end of the day and take care of family members and that kind of thing. So.
Okay, good. Well, thank you so much for coming. We're so glad to have you back.
Okay, great. Thanks.